Mystical greetings, fellow traveler of hidden worlds. You hold in your hands a whispered map of the frontier between life and the life beyond. A map traced not in ink but in moonlit wonder, in the hush that follows a final heartbeat. Tonight I invite you to walk that silver threshold with me, to listen, to feel, and to remember. Because whether we accept it or not, every soul already knows the road ahead. Part 1. At the door of breath. When the final breath leaves the lungs, it does not burst into nothingness. It unfurls like a banner caught by an invisible wind. You, yes, you, feel an almost playful tug at the base of the spine, a silken thread loosening every knot that ever chained body to bone. Where a doctor would search for a pulse, you discover instead a widening river of light. No pain thrums here, no fear crawls here. There is only the astonishment of transparency. I am still me, yet lighter than music. A step, or is it merely an intention, carries you into what looks, at first, like the best memory you ever cherished. Perhaps your grandmother's garden, but with roses that refuse to wilt. Perhaps the shoreline from a forgotten holiday, yet each wave folds in crystalline precision. This familiarity is no accident. The spiritual mind, wiser than any conscious plan, builds a gentle landing pad from the fabrics of your fondest earth thoughts. And then you notice you are not alone. Out of the soft brightness emerge faces that once wept at your cradle or laughed beside your school desk. They do not speak with lips. Their welcome pours straight into the center of your awareness like warm tea from a timeless pot. Beside them stand taller figures whose outlines shimmer as though stitched from dawn itself. These are your guides, companions older than the oldest star you ever wished upon. They have been trailing your footsteps since your first wail in the maternity ward, murmuring hints, sheltering you from accidents you will not remember until later in this story. Some travelers wake instantly, greeting their hosts with childlike glee. Others drift in a cocoon of gentle half-dreams that might last minutes, days, or the turning of many moons by earthly clocks. In a lavender hall, part temple, part clinic, they receive what can only be called soul medicine, wavelengths of color and tone that mend fractures no X-ray could find. When at last the visitor can stand, the guides present the next wonder, movement by thought alone. A mere desire to cross the room becomes flight. A blush of curiosity opens a window onto star fields. Emotion itself becomes both paint and canvas. And thus the great journey truly begins. Part 2. The corridor of memories and the life review. Imagine walking through a hallway made not of bricks or stone, but of experience. Each step forward causes scenes to ripple across the walls, moments from your life, but seen from angles you never imagined. You are not alone in this corridor. Your spirit guides walk beside you, silent but serene, allowing you to absorb what unfolds with the clarity of stars reflected in still water. This is not judgment as you know it. No gavel strikes, no thrones await. There is only the mirror of truth, a vast, loving presence that offers you the one gift the living often fear most, understanding. You do not simply watch your life unfold, you re-feel it. But here is the wonder, you feel it through the hearts of others. The laughter you shared with a stranger, you now feel it from their chest as warmth that surprised them. The angry word you spoke to a friend in pain, you now receive it through their sorrow, the confusion it sowed. Yet you are not punished. There is no shame, no condemnation. There is only awareness, piercing, luminous, compassionate. Patterns emerge, cycles repeated, lessons ignored, moments of beauty you never noticed. The soul organizes these like a celestial quilt, not by chronology, but by meaning. Some memories arrive not as images, but as pure knowing. You remember why you chose that difficult relationship. You realize why illness came when it did, what it opened in you. The betrayal that nearly shattered you reveals itself now as a soul contract fulfilled, a lesson in strength and discernment that your higher self agreed to before birth. And so, paradoxically, your greatest moments are not your triumphs, but your trials. The soul does not evolve through comfort, it blooms in pressure. Like a diamond forming beneath the weight of the earth, your spirit polished itself through pain you once cursed. In this corridor, you encounter souls you once judged, perhaps harshly. Now you see who they were to you behind the masks, friends in disguise, actors in your sacred play. You may cry, not out of regret, but recognition. They agreed to hurt you so you could awaken. The realization shatters everything you thought you knew about fairness. This is the beginning of real compassion, not pity, but understanding so complete it melts the illusion of separation. Here, many souls begin to weep, not for punishment, but for love, for the grandeur of what they lived and the brilliance of what they missed while chasing shadows. And then, as if cued by invisible music, a great calm settles in. Not an ending, but a spacious silence, like the breath after a song. The corridor fades, the guides smile, you are ready to walk in your light. Part 3, The Realms Beyond, Cities of Light, Shadows of Density. You might expect the spirit world to be a featureless cloud, a foggy nothingness. But no, it is stunningly organized, an architecture of vibration rather than matter, a city of consciousness. Think of it not as one place, but many layered dimensions, each tuned to the frequency of those who dwell within. There is no gatekeeper, no checklist of deeds to grant you entry. Your very essence, the quality of your thoughts, the refinement of your emotions, the vibration of your being, is your passport. Like oil and water separating by nature, spirits rise or settle according to what they carry within. At the lowest fringes, just brushing the earthly plane, are the dense zones. These are not hells by divine punishment, but natural consequences of attachment. Spirits here still cling fiercely to material cravings, anger, addictions, or fear. They remain close to the living world, not to haunt, but because they simply cannot let go. Some do not even realize they have died. They wander familiar streets, try to enter former homes, call out to loved ones who no longer hear them. These are the lost, stuck between vibrations, confused and aching. But they are not abandoned. Teams of luminous spirits, tireless in love, descend into these darker regions, not to judge, but to remind. They whisper light into the corners, pose as familiar faces, extend hands that wait for acceptance. The rescue is never forced. A soul must be ready. Some take hours, some resist for centuries, yet not a single one is forgotten. Ascend a level and you enter the intermediate zones where most human spirits arrive after death. These regions resemble Earth in beauty, but purified. No pollution, no violence, no hunger. Streets shimmer. Trees respond to emotion. Thought creates reality. Here, spirits continue to live, but in a higher octave of life. They study, create, and serve. They attend vast halls of learning where universal laws are revealed not by words, but by vibration. There are temples of healing, where those who died in trauma or pain are bathed in colors and harmonics that restore the fractured energy body. There are gardens of reflection, where one can sit and feel the echo of one's own soul. And yes, there are spiritual cities, structures of impossible geometry, glowing from within, designed not with tools but with intention. These cities hum with purpose. Within them are schools, music halls, libraries of knowledge gathered across millennia. Spirit doctors work here, not on organs but on frequencies. Artists paint with sound, gardeners coax flowers that bloom in rhythm with love, souls grouped together by affinity, not obligation. No family drama, no jealousy, only resonance. Here, you meet companions from other lifetimes, souls you loved in forms you've forgotten. There is recognition, like the sudden memory of a song you thought lost. Then higher still, into what can only be called the realms of radiant light. Words do not belong here. Even thought becomes too slow. These are the dwellings of highly evolved spirits, those who have walked countless lives in compassion, service, and truth. They are not superior in ego, but in luminosity. You feel their presence like sunlight on the skin of the soul. These spirits do not float in idle bliss. They work ceaselessly, as mentors, as healers, as architects of planetary balance. They visit lower realms not out of pity, but out of duty, born of love. Their wisdom is direct, their gaze sees through all illusion. Many of them once walked the earth, perhaps as mystics, perhaps as mothers, perhaps as beggars. Now they shape realities beyond the veil. And yet, even here, the journey is not over. There is always more, always deeper, always higher. For consciousness once freed has no ceiling. Part 4, Work, Wonder, and the Living Tapestry of the Afterworld. If earthly life is a single melody, the spirit world is a symphony. Every soul, every tone belongs to a larger score. And work, yes, work, is the grand rehearsal. Do not picture cubicles or alarms. Picture vocation as an overflowing cup, the thing you love so deeply that giving it away becomes joy itself. Upon arrival in the intermediate cities, guides invite the newcomer to the Hall of Orientation, a sphere of translucent alabaster floating above fragrant rivers of mist. Within, shimmering glyphs reveal countless guilds of service. One table glows emerald for the healers, another pulses indigo for the educators, a third sparkles crimson gold for the guardians of emerging worlds. No command is issued. Instead, each soul feels a magnetic tug toward the task it pledged long before birth. The healers continue their earthly art, but their instruments are color, tone, and intention. A former nurse now weaves lattices of aquamarine light around spirits damaged by sudden death, sealing tears in their subtle anatomy. A once surgeon guides incarnate doctors from the dream plane, delivering flashes of insight that shorten an operation, transform a diagnosis, or spark the invention of gentler instruments. They call it whisper surgery, precision delivered at the edge of sleep. The educators gather in amphitheaters carved from living quartz. Here, knowledge is not lectured, it is transmitted, a silent bloom of understanding from mind to mind. Subjects range from cosmic ecology, how stellar nurseries feed young galaxies, to emotional alchemy, the science of turning fear into courage. Students may be newborn spirits or sleeping humans lifted nightly for lessons they will recall as intuition. The Guardians patrol the liminal zones where dense vibrations swirl, battlefields, disaster sites, hospitals at midnight. They are the subtle hands that divert a falling beam, the sudden inner voice that urges a driver to slow, the invisible strength that steadies a grief-stricken parent. Their creed is simple: intervene without infringement. They cannot rewrite destiny, but they can soften its harshest blows. Beyond these lie artists of the sublime. Their studios float like lanterns over crystalline seas. One composes symphonies audible only to embryos, guiding cellular dance in the womb. Another sculpts fountains of light whose droplets become shooting stars, messages to astronomers who, centuries later, will glimpse them and dream of life beyond Earth. Time flows strangely here. A soul may labor what feels like years only to glance back and see that on Earth, a single minute has passed, or vice versa. Passion decides duration, not clocks. And passion is abundant. A scientist who once mapped viruses now explores the mathematics of compassion. A painter turns her palette into healing frequencies that ripple through solar winds and calm whole planets. Yet every worker rests, though rest looks different. There are gardens of stillness inside soundless domes. Sit upon a bench grown from white jade petals, and entire epics of your past unwind, leaving only the hush of now. There are lakes of memory, where dipping a hand lets you taste forgotten lifetimes. Laughter is the common language, curiosity the common fuel. Spiritual families reconvene, not to replay old drama, but to weave projects together. A grandfather who loved botany partners with the granddaughter he never met in flesh. She, dreaming at her laboratory desk, suddenly discovers a drought-resistant seed, the very design her spirit team cultivated in luminous glass houses beyond the veil. And overhead, higher realms orchestrate grand currents of evolution. Councils of radiant minds monitor the health of civilizations, sending cascades of inspiration when an era grows stagnant, or gentle turbulence when humanity must wake from complacency. Sometimes their impulse births a renaissance. Sometimes it cracks a rigid empire so that compassion can seep in. In all of this, one truth glows: service equals growth. A spirit rises in frequency not by escaping need, but by meeting it with a heart on fire. Work is worship. Worship is creative action. There is no retirement, only expansion, assignment, fulfillment, review, and onward again. And because love is the currency, no effort is ever lost. The smallest kindness echoes through corridors of probability, bending futures toward light. So remember, traveler still bound to earth, when you feel a sudden comfort in despair, a spark of genius at 3 a.m., a nudge to turn left instead of right, look upward within. Somewhere, beloved hands are at work, threading your story into the symphony. Part 5, Whispers Across the Veil, How the Dead Communicate with the Living. They have not left you. This is the first and deepest truth. Those who crossed beyond breath are not gone, they are simply changed. Their language is no longer built of syllables and sound, but of resonance, rhythm, and intention. Their presence is subtle, but constant, like the warmth of sunlight felt through closed eyes. Many imagine communication with the departed to be a séance spectacle: flickering candles, floating tables, cryptic knocks. But in truth, their methods are far gentler and far more common. Dreams are the most universal passageway. When your physical mind falls asleep, your soul stretches its limbs. In that liminal space, the density of matter relaxes and the veils thin. It is there, between REM and the real, that a grandmother's voice, a lost friend's embrace, or a pet's tail brushing your ankle reappears. These are not illusions, they are reunions. Spirits often choose dreams to reassure the grieving, deliver messages, or simply radiate love. Sometimes their appearance is brief, wordless, but so vivid it lingers for days. That's because it was real. Signs in waking life are equally frequent. A light flickers when you're thinking of them. A radio changes stations on its own. A favorite song plays at the perfect moment. Objects fall without cause. Why? Because spirits manipulate subtle energy fields, especially electromagnetic ones. Not with hands, but with focused intention. Their touch is like a breeze, not enough to bend iron, but enough to sway memory. Scent is another carrier. The smell of your father's aftershave, your mother's perfume, a particular flower that only bloomed during childhood. When you smell it suddenly, in an impossible context, trust it. The spirit has brushed close. Scent bypasses logic and speaks directly to emotional memory. But perhaps most common of all is intuition, that flash of knowing that appears without logic. You're driving and suddenly feel you must slow down. Moments later, an accident happens ahead. You're struggling and an unexpected solution pops fully formed into your thoughts. You feel a presence, invisible but unmistakable, when you're on the edge of despair. These are not coincidences. They are whispers. Why do some hear these whispers more easily than others? Several factors align: the evolution of the departed soul, the depth of emotional bond, the sensitivity of the living, and the openness of the moment. A child may sense more because they haven't yet closed their inner ear. A grieving parent may hear nothing because their pain builds walls that block perception. That's okay. Spirits wait patiently. They are persistent in love but respectful of will. They cannot and will not force connection, but they will keep knocking gently through repeating numbers, dreams, animal messengers, unexpected encounters, words in a book you almost didn't read. It is not your job to believe. It is your invitation to notice, to pause, to open, to wonder. Was that really just coincidence? Or did someone who once loved me just remind me that love never dies? Even those you think you wronged, those whose deaths were surrounded in regret, come not with blame, but with healing. Often they are the first to reach through the veil, offering forgiveness long before you think you deserve it. Their consciousness is no longer bound to ego or wounded storylines. They see with clarity and choose to love anyway. So next time your heart aches for someone who has passed, pause, breathe, listen inwardly. That warmth, that whisper, that memory arriving not as pain but presence, that may be your answer. Part 6, the sacred preparation, how souls choose their next life. Reincarnation is not a lottery. It is a design, vast, deliberate, sacred. No soul is thrown into flesh by accident. The body you wear, the family you join, the wounds you carry, and the gifts you possess are all the results of choices made beyond time. And these choices are not punishment. They are blueprints of growth. It begins in the hall of mirrors, not of glass, but of soul reflection. Here the spirit, now luminous with understanding from its life review, sits with guides to examine the landscape of its evolution. Not with guilt, not with pride, but with clarity. What patterns remain unresolved? What traits have been mastered and which still need refinement? What contracts have yet to be fulfilled with other souls? A karmic map is unveiled, not a ledger of crimes and penalties, but a chart of energetic imbalances and potential harmonies. Like an artist returning to a canvas, the soul sees where color was missing, where contrast was too harsh, where light must now be applied. Then begins the great selection process. First, the family. Souls do not choose perfect families. They choose necessary ones. That alcoholic father, the emotionally distant mother, the sibling who mirrored your jealousy, none of these are errors. They are spiritual training grounds. Some families offer warmth to awaken self-love. Others offer challenge to awaken strength. All are part of the soul's curriculum. Next, the body. Yes, your body was chosen. Height, tone, beauty, ability, disability, none of it is random. A soul may choose a fragile body to learn humility, or a beautiful one to test whether it can remain humble in attention. Talents are seeded with purpose. So too are limitations. Then comes time and place. A soul may elect to incarnate during a war to accelerate compassion, or into poverty to experience perseverance, or into wealth to learn responsibility. There are no better or worse lives, only more relevant experiences. The soul's compass is growth, and perhaps most profound of all, pre-life agreements. Before birth, souls make sacred contracts with others. In this life, I will be your daughter, and I will leave early, so you can awaken to grief and grow deep roots. Or, we will fall in love, but I will betray you, not to destroy you, but to help you reclaim your worth. These agreements are not scripts, they are promises, and within them is room for choice. Once the plan is accepted, the spirit begins to descend in frequency, entering what some call the corridor of forgetfulness. Here, memory fades, not as loss but as mercy, for to remember all at once would paralyze. Earth demands focus, emotion, presence, and so the veils fall. The soul is wrapped in amnesia, but not abandonment. Guides walk beside the descending spirit until the final moment, the first breath in the new body. Then for a time, the line grows quiet. But the soul is never truly alone. It has left echoes of intent, in the shape of its fingerprints, in the song it hums as a child, in the dreams it cannot forget. And so it begins again, not as punishment, but as poetry. Not to erase the past, but to enrich it. Part 7th, Timelessness, Influence, and the Eternal Presence of the Dead. The spirit world does not operate under Earth's ticking clocks. There is no sunrise, no midnight, no calendar. Here time is not a river, it is a sea, and spirits move through it not in straight lines but in spirals, waves, and echoes. To a spirit, 1,000 Earth years may pass like a breath, while a single moment of emotional intensity may stretch like lifetimes. Time is no longer quantity, it is density of experience. This explains many mysteries. When a departed loved one visits you in a dream and says, "I just got here," it may feel confusing, but in their realm, that arrival is fresh, even if on Earth they've been gone for decades. Time bends around intention and meaning. Even more astonishing, past, present, and future exist simultaneously. Spirits can access all timelines, like rooms in a vast mansion, choosing where to walk, what to recall, what to influence. Memory is not locked in the past. Vision is not limited to prophecy. In eternity, all is. But why does this matter to the living? Because it means the dead do not wait for us in some distant corner. They are with us now, in ways we barely grasp. The separation we feel is only a matter of perception, like not hearing a song just because we are tuned to another station. Their influence is constant. The right word that arrives in your thoughts when someone needs comfort. The gentle push toward a decision you weren't going to make. The burst of creativity that floods you in the middle of the night. All of these may come from spirits who still walk beside you, not as ghosts of longing, but as architects of alignment. More than that, the dead work for the world. Behind every great awakening, every moment of grace, every scientific or artistic breakthrough, there are often teams of spirit minds shaping, nudging, inspiring. These are not fantasies. They are the scaffolding of human progress, built by hands you cannot see but have always known. They also act as protectors, that sudden turn that saved you from a crash, that gut feeling not to trust someone, that delay you cursed, only to find out later it kept you safe. These are spiritual interventions, respectful of your free will, but designed to steer your life toward your soul's true compass. Even in nature, spirits move. Forest guardians inspire reforestation. Ocean spirits soothe climate patterns. Storms shift under the subtle orchestration of unseen minds. The world is not unattended. But the most beautiful truth? Love is not constrained by death. The love you shared with someone continues to grow on both sides. In fact, many spirits say that only after death does their love become clear and unconditional, free of ego, fear, and time. And so when you cry for them, know they are near. When you speak their name, know they hear. When you live your truth, know it lifts them higher. Because connection does not end, it only transforms. When your own day of transition comes, it will not be a journey into emptiness. It will be a reunion. The room may fade, but presence will rush in. You will remember what you forgot, that you were never alone. This is the secret the dead long for us to know. Not so we will fear less, but so we will live more.